Pin the rat's limbs to the pan to hold it firmly in place. Use the scissors to make a midline incision from a point between the forelimbs, extending up to the external genital opening. Make horizontal incisions above the hind limbs and between the forelimbs. Use the forceps to gently separate the skin flaps from the muscle below. Pin the cut open skin flaps to the dissection pan. Use the scalpel to make a vertical incision on the abdominal muscle along the midline. Now make 2 horizontal incisions just below the ribs, starting from the midline and extending sideways. Holding the muscle flaps with the forceps, separate the muscles from the tissue below. Pin the muscle flaps to the dissection pan. Use the scissors to cut the sternum along the midline. Gently pull apart the 2 halves of the rib cage with the forceps to expose the organs. Use the forceps to lift the liver lobes and move them upward to view the internal organs. Good job! Tap on the organs to learn more. The small intestine consists of 3 parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Ducts from digestive glands, pancreas, and liver open into the duodenum, which is the anterior portion of the small intestine. The middle portion is the jejunum, and the most posterior portion is the ileum. Most of the chemical digestion and nutrient absorption occurs within the small intestine. The lumen of the small intestine is the site of chemical breakdown of food, where the digestive enzymes from the pancreas are secreted. The internal surface of the small intestine is lined with numerous minute projections called the villi. Villi increase the absorptive surface of the small intestine. The ileum opens into the large intestine via the ileocholic valve. The large intestine consists of a large cecum, an ascending colon on the right side, a short transverse colon, and a descending colon heading posteriorly. The cecum is a blind sac near the ileocholic valve. It is quite large in rats and contains microorganisms. The presence of microorganisms in the cecum helps in further breakdown of plant material which is not digested by the enzymes in the small intestine. The large quantities of water secreted into the gut during digestion are reabsorbed in the large intestine. Water is removed from the undigested food as it moves along the colon. As a result of this, a mass of waste material called feces is formed. The feces then reaches the rectum, the terminal portion of the colon, where it is stored and finally eliminated through the anus. The stomach is a sac-like structure where the ingested food is stored. It consists of 3 parts: cardiac, fundus, and pylorus. The cardiac is the entrance to the stomach from the esophagus. The fundus is the large middle area of the stomach. The pylorus is the constricted posterior portion of the stomach. Finally, the stomach opens into the duodenum through the pyloric sphincter. There is a series of ridges or folds called rugae in the internal surface of the stomach. Pancreas is an endocrine gland situated in the mesentery proper and greater omentum. It is positioned along the anterior edge of the duodenum. The digestive enzymes produced by the pancreas are secreted into the small intestine. Pancreas is the site where insulin and glucagon are produced. These hormones are secreted into the blood. The kidneys are an essential part of the urinary system which occur in pairs. These are embedded in fat on the dorsal body wall. Each kidney has a thin, tube-like structure called ureter, which starts from the kidney, along with the renal blood vessels, at a depression called the hilus. Urine is carried to the urinary bladder for storage by the ureter. The urinary bladder is a small and firm, globular structure situated in the pelvis of the rat. The duct leading from the bladder to the exterior is the urethra. In male rats, the urethra travels through the penis. Urethra acts as a passage for sperm during reproduction and a tract for urine at other times. In female rats, the reproductive products do not exit through the urethra. The spleen is an elongated organ attached to the greater curvature of the stomach. It is involved in removing the old red blood cells from circulation and breaking them down. The resulting products are secreted into the stomach. The liver is a vital organ which is divided into several lobes. It produces bile, which is secreted into the duodenum through the bile ducts. Bile is essential for proper digestion of fats. The liver has many functions such as detoxification of certain chemicals and production of glycogen, a carbohydrate storage material. The lungs are the vital organs in the respiratory system. They are situated on either side of the heart. The wall of the thoracic cavity is lined by a membrane called parietal pleura. The membrane covering the lungs is called the visceral pleura. There is one lobe in the left lung and 4 lobes in the right lung: cranial lobe, medial lobe, caudal lobe, and accessory lobe. A long tube called the trachea transfers the air into the lungs. The trachea is supported with cartilaginous rings to prevent collapse as the organism inhales. The trachea is divided into 2 branches, right and left bronchus. These bronchi lead to the lungs where they branch further into bronchioles. These bronchioles end in thin-walled air sacs called the alveoli, where air exchange occurs.